What is an oratory? Well, hopefully all of you in the room can answer this question, otherwise we've already got our first problem. However, that is not the question we ask ourselves when first constructing our oratory. Rather, it's, what should my oratory be about? Well, when I sat at home pondering this very question, I could not for the life of me answer it. And then my stomach started doing some really strange things. Like, you know that feeling when even though you've never actually undergone childbirth, it feels like the burrito you just ate might be willing to educate you on that particular experience. Well, that's how I was feeling. You know, like I was going to have to go to the bathroom really soon, or I was going to, break some wind, explosive diarrhea. Oh, I'm sorry. I never know what exactly is appropriate to be telling people, but luckily neither does the rest of society, so I'm good, right? Well, not exactly. Have you ever felt extremely uncomfortable in situations like the one you just witnessed? Or should I continue talking about my bloated stomach? No? Well, all right. Lately, it is more and more common to hear people discussing things which, even in the 1950s, would have been deemed inappropriate to discuss in your own bathroom, let alone in any public place. However, the real problem that faces our society is how did this issue become so prominent, and what can we do to fix it? First, we must take a look at our lack of conservatism with regards to private issues and how it's grown since the 1950s. Next, take a glance at the matters of society that seem to be influenced the most by this spill-it-all syndrome. And finally, figure out what we can do to reverse this issue from spill-it-all to spill what's necessary. But now I'm going to move over here because that guy kind of smells like poo. Pamela Paul, writer for New York Times, published an article in February of 2012 saying, "Unless you are my best friend or my husband, I don't need to know the macabre symptoms of your gastrointestinal virus." She goes on to write about the problems our society seems to have in giving out too much information to random strangers, or what I like to call the result of the spill-it-all syndrome. However, was this as big of an issue in the 1950s? Now, I think if anything, we can all agree that technology has evolved drastically since then, and I know this because it's now possible to take fat from certain areas of your body and use it to enhance, well, certain other areas of your body. Now, I know, technology. We hear the warnings all the time, and it's an extremely repetitive topic. But, we also see speed limit signs all the time, and it's only after you get the ticket and a good grounding do you realize you probably should have paid attention to it in the first place. So that's what we're going to do. Business Insider in 2012 reports the scary app Girls Near You. This app allows those with the download to be informed of any female who checks into a hotel within a 5-mile radius, along with the caption, "Looking for love or just a one-night stand." The scariest part about this app is that the females are unaware of the GPS signal that their phones are emitting to it. Business Insider again in 2012 reports that the Places tab on Facebook has become incredibly dangerous to those of us who use it. WeKnowYourHouse.com was created to raise awareness about this very issue by displaying a Google Maps image of your house. PleaseRobMe.com takes it one step further. By displaying a Google Maps image of your house, Google Maps directions to your house, and notifications of when you're no longer in your house, simply by taking the public information off of your Facebook. Another problem we've seen grow is the evolution of our society from the once demure and reflective people we were into a generation of loud and obnoxious ones. At one point in history, explaining where you and your significant other have gotten down would have resulted in a solid silver chastity belt and a wimple. But now it's received with snickers and whoops, and we see this every day when we see teenage boys farting and laughing, adults who still act like teenagers, and the only people who seem upset about it are those over the age of 50. Which raises the question, why? It's because they remember a time when adults were respected, and once a teen became a certain age, they were given responsibility and expected to be mature. In this same sense, we can see that maturity levels and this problem of too much information are closely related. The more mature a person is, the better the filter between their mouth and brain. This misuse of our filters has also led to a misuse of everyday phrases. You know, saying I have to use the restroom isn't outdated. It's still a good phrase to use. However, this simple action has evolved into, I have to pee. Well, great, but no one needed to know that. The whole reason these phrases were created was to provide discretion for those using them and maintain the sanity of those of us who had to listen. Now, I've had a wedgie since early this morning, so I'm going to move this way and see if I can't unstick things down there. Secrets. Now, Victoria is just one of those who no longer has any, because as far as dress codes go, we no longer feel the need to cover up. With the introduction of booty shorts and belly shirts, we are encouraged to show much more skin than anyone should feel comfortable with, also known as the physical form of TMI. Now, as a female, I'm not quite sure how girls have become comfortable exposing this region of their body, but they have, and I find that a little bit concerning. Another problem I've run into personally is the explanation of one's sexual orientation with a complete stranger. Recently, I was in my local Barnes & Noble, and a man in his early 20s walked up, extended his right hand, and said, "Hi, I'm Chris, I'm bisexual." Yeah, see, the only response I could think of in that moment was, "Hi, I'm Rachel, I'm not." Now, whether this was serious or just a really bad pickup line, I will never know. But the point is, it was way too much information. I really didn't need to know that, but no one seems bothered by explaining the ins and outs of their personal relationships, opinions, and complaints with every person they meet. This sexual orientation problem can also be seen in clothing and body language. Now, I have a friend who has a shirt that says in bold print, "I'm so gay, I shit." Sorry, excrete, rainbows. Now, as a teenager, I find that shirt slightly amusing, but that's not the point. The point is, it is a great example of how we show too much information by means of our clothing. Finally, it's time to pop that pimple and figure out how to solve this virus of information overload. My favorite TV show, Friends, says it best, "If only there was something to control what we said." Interesting. Well, luckily there is, from the same geniuses who brought you the ShamWow. It's called a filter. Yay, fanfare! But seriously, there is such thing as a filter, people. And luckily, we all came with one free of charge. It's just a matter of learning how to use it. For this reason, I have come up with a simple solution. The first step is to listen. Listen to what people are saying, listen to the conversation, and really listen to the responses that are given. Next, use the 3 C's: classy, comprehensive, and conservative. This will help decide what can be said without revealing too much. First, remind yourself to be classy about what you say. Second, and please, for the love of good conversation, say something that is relevant and comprehensive to it. And finally, what can be said that is conservative enough to get your point across without being crude? These are simple things we can do in our everyday lives when speaking, writing, and most importantly, updating any social media. We've only seen this problem grow since the 1950s, so what does that mean for our future? What does that mean for the next generation? Now, as many of you probably noticed, over the course of this oration, I said things that were probably a little too revealing, but that was only to make a point. If any of them made you feel at all uncomfortable, then you know firsthand that this really is an issue. Because every single one of the transitions I use up here today is something I have seen or heard in social medias or in public. By raising awareness that this really is a growing issue, we may be able to save the future of human interaction. I implore you to look over your Facebook posts. Realize the next time you're talking to your friends or maybe to an audience of what exactly you are telling people. If you come across Facebook posts that say, "This is my pooping face," yeah, I read that one last week, then you might be one of the people committing this TMI crime. And hey, next time you need to go to the bathroom, aim for something classier. Like I have the need to peregrinate to the lavatory. The bathroom? Okay, maybe we don't need to say it exactly like that. May I use the restroom? Will suffice.